Check his pulse.
Check his right.
No, check his pulse.
Get back in the
Check. The man ain't moved yet, bro. The man ain't moved yet, bro.
Tell me what his pulse is right now.
Check
Swear
the
to God.
pulse. He's not f***ing moving right now, bro. He doesn't have it, bro. He's not f***ing moving.
No, did they f***ing kill him, bro?
3 minutes. Pulse him.
Like,
What you doing?
bro, 3 minutes, bro. He's not f***ing moving.
I know he is. Oh my.
Looking back at the time I came to Canada and how things are unfolding in our world today, including the situation with George Floyd, it gives me lots of things coming to mind in terms of my work here at the Center for Newcomers and my teaching responsibilities that I do, and looking at how many people from many diverse backgrounds come through our doors, and in the classroom, how we engage with many different people from different backgrounds, social locations, and the beauty you see in that. And yet, when you dig deeper into some of these issues, you begin to see that there are some systemic realities that people face every day. And it stems from nothing else but how we have coded people, color-coded people, and assigned different labels to people. And these labels are responsible, or the interpretation or significance we give to these labels are responsible for some of the wedges we have between and amongst people. Because after all, we are all human. In fact, when I was in high school, I was taught a song, and one of the lines went this way: how many times must my people exist before they know we are one? How many times must we exist to know we are one? And that keeps coming back to me in the wake of the killing of George Floyd. And it begs the question, how many more of these situations will have to come before we understand that we are one human race? The color coding of humans and the basis for which we describe people has taken over the essential nature or component of human beings. That we are people who have been made to engage with each other, to work together, to create a common social good. Unfortunately, assignment of meaning and value and significance to all these colors is bringing us to a place where we seem to hate one another. There is nothing much more significant than understanding that you are a human being and that you are valued. And whatever you do that from that perspective. For instance, when people come through our doors here, we try to support them to understand that there are so many institutions that they have to engage with for their very survival in Canada or in Calgary. How they thrive depends on the institutions and their responses to them, as well as communities. So for instance, youth programs, you have young people from all walks of life in programs that are meant to help them do well. And then you have to talk about education, the education system. How do these individuals engage with this education system? Does the education system understand their systemic realities? Do we see systemic oppression or racial oppression in the lens of these institutions? And how, if we uncover that, how do we really make sure that we are making contributions to making these institutions better than they look today? And again, this is where the whole aspect of dialogue comes in. Because we have to understand that a framework through which we practice domination becomes a subtext by which society accepts what is taken for granted. You see, and when we take things for granted, we call it doxa. Bodo will say is doxa. That means that people take it for granted, and so it becomes the natural way of doing things. And oppression can become a framework through the lens of doxa, where people simply take things for granted, and then that becomes the norm. These pieces are important to discuss. It's not just about the police, it's not just about it's about all institutions reinforcing each other, in the sense that they are all related and controlled by policies that are systemic to some degree in nature. And when the systemic issues come up, we have to question the very source of the issues. You see, we have what we call social constructions. And so society constructs the image of other people. We call it otherness. When there's othering in society, we are socially constructing the identities of people who don't look like us. And so when we do that, we are forcing, consciously or unconsciously, we are forcing the othered to begin to think of themselves in a certain way. And that certain way is the way that the dominant culture or the dominant society constructs them. And so these constructed realities, unfortunately, become the identities that the dominant society pushes on these individuals. Myself here as an adult, there are times that I experience this crisis of identity because I know who I am. I know who I am. I know the caliber of person I am. I know the goodness in me. I know the values I possess. I know the compassion and empathy that I have. But it is known to me and people who know me and people who may appear to look like me. But to the larger community, I may be a monster. I've seen situations when people see me and then they just kind of take a totally different direction, not because of COVID, pre-COVID. And that begs the question, what is really about me that makes people see me as a monster? What is this color coding and the significance and value attached to it causing me to look like? How does it affect my sense of being? And how does it really impact my behaviors and actions? I am old enough to be able to control some of these things, but I have to tell you here that it's not always easy. There are times I'm conflicted in between who I am and what people think I am. And imagine younger kids growing up having to face the same situation. We all stem from different places. We come from different places. We possess different values. Personalities, everything. Differences are abound everywhere. How can we ensure that young people of African descent are able to be part of this beautiful country? How can we ensure that we are not just here to encourage some people and deflate the values of others or devalue others? We are here to ensure that all of us are making it to the best of our abilities. Are we aware that certain policy-making models really do not positively affect other people in our communities? And so people who have the power to narrate my story, those who have the authority to tell my story, are the ones that are making these policies that affect me in a very negative way. And yet other people like myself and others are not in the picture. We are not able to be part of making our contributions to how these policies are made and how they should be implemented in a way that results in more fairness in our communities. The social and economic inequities we see today are rooted in how systems are structured and how they mutually reinforce each other. And so, if for instance, if you at this point decide to make education very, very expensive, you know that you are targeting a certain group of people in society whose children can never be educated. And then it goes on to how, again, policing is done, how probation is done, how justice is done, and how the courts come out with decisions. Everything is so tied together. And we have to have a point where we can talk about how these structures can be reconstructed from a justice lens. Until that happens, people are going to carry the same old notions of other people, unsubstantiated, and yet that becomes the perception through which we are viewed. And I am sick and tired of defending myself and trying to make people know that, I'm also a human being. I know I am a human being, and I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of my contributions to Canada. I'm proud of my contributions to CFN and its leaders, its staff, who are doing marvelous work. I am proud of my teaching at the university and the fact that I can contribute to making society a better place. I am proud of all that. On the other side of it, I have to deal with this constant interrogation by society in terms of who is this person. Anytime I go from work or anytime I come from the classroom, I bring my experiences to my kids. We have debriefings on every Saturday. We have a conversation, and each of us will bring our own experiences in the course of the week. And most of the time, this topic comes up in very different ways. I tell my kids, you need to respect your emotions. Your emotions are there for a reason. You need to embrace them. You also have to understand that anytime racial matters come to you, when you are racially oppressed, when you are racially profiled, when you are singled out because of how you look, I always let them know that know what your rights are. Know what you are entitled to. Yes, you are angry, and you are okay to be angry. In your anger, I always let them know that your anger should not lead to or result to you being rude or disobedient. That is not the part. Because in that calmness, you are demonstrating strength. You are letting the person know that you know who you are aware of your surroundings, and what the person is doing may be out of hatred or ignorance. And in the end, you win. Even though the system may be heavily to your disadvantage, but in the end, you will win. The last thing I want to instruct my kids to do is to take the laws in their own hands. I want them to be able to understand that they have the power within them to let people who discriminate against them, who are racist towards them, to understand that in the end, they know exactly what they are doing. And I've seen examples upon examples. My son was telling me once in school, people wore this KKK pieces and came to school, and there was tension. He was the one who was called to come and then negotiate between two. He was angry. And more angry at the way the police explained it. They said, well, they were just joking. They just put pillowcases on their heads. That was how it was explained away. And that made him very angry. Because how can you explain something like this away? How can you not address the issue and bring some comfort to us who were the targets of such a foolish demonstration? You see? So that made him very angry. And I said, you are right to be angry. And what you did, the reason they called you was because you were reasonable in your dealings and handling of the case. And that is an example. Where did that come from? It came from how we have conversations like this at home to make sure that they understand what they need to do and to stand boldly to defend who they are when needed.